by Nikki. I'm here today with 4 new journals here. They are different than what I've usually made. These are ring bound, spiral bound journals. And let me just give you a quick story on why I made these. I totally was headed down the direction of starting my next project, which was going to be, or it still is. I'm starting on it now, but it is going to be some like ocean postcard from the seaside kind of thing. And we'll be using one of my kits and, well, a bunch of my kits. I've got some new kits coming. Anyway, that's a side note. I was headed in that direction, and then my friends Stephanie and Jennifer gave me another box full of stuff, and then my mom is getting ready to retire, and so she's been going through the office and through all of her file cabinets and gave me a ton of old, like, you know, ripped off corners with stamps on them and stuff, which you'll see in here. And so in going through all of that stuff, I just had this desk full of fodder. And then I had a stack of some scraps and things from my last journal adventure making. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make these into the journals. And I thought, and then I'm going to make them spiral bound. So I have the chance to use my spiral binder, my cinch machine. And this is the result of that. So this is a lot of ephemera pieces and things that came out of like old time magazines, and like I said, from the 70s and 80s, from my mom's file cabinets, and then a whole bunch of stuff that's I don't even know from when it is, from my friend Dorothy's place. So anyway, I have 4 journals. So I'm just going to push them up here, and since the lace one's on top, we'll go with this one first. So they are all, like I said, they're all spiral bound. They have different amounts of pages and stuff in them, so I've put them in here. When I measured them, I just literally measured out to the furthest end of the, let me make sure I'm in, there we go. The furthest edge of like kind of the furthest tabs. None of the covers actually cover the whole book, and that was intentional. I've always loved the look of this. I've seen several journal makers do journals with a smaller cover so you can see all this exposed stuff. I'm someone who loves the edges of books anyway, so I especially loved this. This cover was in one of the boxes of old antique stuff, and it was literally just the 2 covers. There was no spine attached to it. It was just rough cut off, so I left it that way. So it's a front and back. I cut one of the doilies in half and glued that on there, and then put just a strip of canvas cloth up there to kind of finish it off. This came in another box from them a long time ago. It was a bunch of these threads, like ribbons, but they're old. So they were kind of fraying on the end, so I gave them a rough haircut and used one of these really old, I'm going to assume that like keys or something were on here at some point. It's like a overpowered safety pin, but it's got a number on there, 726. So super cool. And so that's just pinned through some loops here, and that's its tassel. This was an old piece of jewelry that came, it was like used to be a pin, but now it is part of the book. And then this is a bunch of scraps of lace and different pieces that I've accumulated. A bunch of this came in the boxes from them, but now they're just tabs. This book is fairly undecorated apart from all the lace, which is kind of what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do lots of lace layers and then lots of spaces to write. So this one in my shop will be called Lovely Lace. It has 80 pages, and it is 8 by 8 3/4. So the pages in here came from old notebooks. This was from an old ledger that my mom gave me, an old ledger notebook. This is from an old ledger, and it still has numbers and stuff. I've just cut off where there were names. And then some old book pages, old music pages. This is a newer piece of graph paper, coffee stained graph paper. This is from an old English study book from the 60s. I've done a few just basic tags with some lace stitched on them, and they're either in pockets or just clipped on, and that's it for those. This is from a bird book, an antique bird book. I think that one's from like the 40s. This is from a genealogy book. These pages actually come from the book that made this cover, this record cover. So you'll see that in a minute. This is another music primer. This is some really old student writing, practice writing paper. More of that ledger. And again, just big hunks of lace and stuff. English book. This is a pocket, so these are pockets on these pages. So, you know, you can take the tag out, write all over, stick the tag in, write on the tag, right? There's lots of writing space in this one. You can write around these pages. You can, you know, put scraps of paper, glue scraps of paper in. I kind of think of these as journals slash like glue books, art journals, because you could definitely, you know, if you're a doodler, you could doodle around this stuff. If you're a memory keeper, these would be great places to put photos. I've been watching Johanna a lot and the way that she does her journal with me videos, and I love the way she journals and puts flip outs and things to work in her journal. So in doing these, I kind of saw a lot of ways that she does her journaling and thought, oh, that would work great in something like this. Here's some more of that old ledger. These are old, this is an old encyclopedia, is where that comes from. This is some vintage lace. All of these pieces of lace are somewhat older. Some of them are much older. A lot of it is handmade. This is handmade, hand crocheted lace. A lot of it is. Old ledger, more of the old English. That one I mispunched a little, but it's okay. It'll stay in. This is a very old, top of that very old children's practice paper. I was sewing on it and I was like, ooh, I have to be very careful. This is hand crocheted lace. So is this piece here. That's some music staff paper. This is the only lace that's newer. This is Hobby Lobby lace. There's a pocket. More of the ancestor genealogy book. Some more of that encyclopedia. Graph paper with a big swath of lace on there. And then this is the back cover. I've just left the covers the way they were. I kind of liked the dirtiness, the grunginess of having used it. And there's my maker's mark. So this one again is called Lovely Lace, and it has 80 pages. Then we've got this one. This one's called Record, clearly. And this was an old notebook. So this was the size of the notebook. And I've lined it with some Tim Holtz paper. And then I got this, I think it's like a decorative key. And it had this big tassel on it. And so I've pinned that as the, you know, kind of tassel dangle thing from this one. I wanted them all to have some sort of dangly element from the spiral binding. So that's what I've done with this one. And this one is called Record. And it has 76 pages, and it's 7 by 9.5. And so these are going to be more decorated with more little pockets and things. These are tags that I have just backed with some cardstock and sewn around, and on the front is some tissue paper. Then I've used some Tracy Fox Digitals that I had. This is Tracy Fox Digitals. I have a whole stack of like leftover Tracy Fox Digitals after projects, and I stash them aside. And so these pages that you're going to see that I've sewn like this, those are all from her Eclectica kit. So are these. I haven't done any inking unless something was already previously inked. I've got small pages with some washi on them. This is a larger page here with a pocket and a couple pieces of ephemera that are from that Eclectica kit and one of those big tags. Then I did do some fussy cutting out of a Time magazine from, I think it was like 1954, and I loved some of the advertisements, so I've turned them into some flips. So this was No More Parched Lips, and it was an ad for chapstick. So this chapstick was only 35 cents and no U.S. tax. So anyway, those are both flip outs, so you can definitely write on the back because they're backed with antique ledger or vintage ledger, and then they flip back in. This is a page of bookend paper that I took out of something. These little sayings that you see throughout this book, they all came, I fussy cut those, all came out of that 1954 Life magazine. This is one of those pieces that my mom gave me, a bunch of old stamps. This one's postmark says November 24th, 1976, so I would have been just over a month old in this at that point. And then I did use some of these little pieces of ephemera from my Your Creative Studio box. And then these pieces of ephemera came from the Tracy Fox Eclectica kit. Those go in here. This is some of that fabric washi, the Tim Holtz fabric washi. I am just in love with that stuff. It's great for the edging of things. I've put tabs on. This is one of Tracy's kits. I was just going to say Oddments, but I'm not entirely sure. It might be Oddments. I'm not sure. And these I think are attic papers. These are just some labels that I got in Your Creative Studio box. So I folded them over the edge. This is Eclectica, Tracy Fox, and so are these pieces. It's a huge kit. It's a two-part kit. You get one part in Tracy's shop and one part in Jessica Rapp's shop. This was there were several of these little envelopes in the box from my friends Stephanie and Jennifer, and it was just correspondence between some people. This one's from June 25th. 5 p.m. 1962, and it's a little 4-cent stamp, and it's just the cutest little envelope. So I've just put a piece of folded paper and a little Tim Holtz card in there, and those are just stuck in this envelope. I just loved this little baby envelope. I thought it was so cute. Some Tim Holtz paper. This is just some antique paper. It's got a really cool watermark, and I just think you guys probably can't see it. I don't know how I could show it on camera, but it's back in the day when papers had, watermarks all the time, and that's got cool watermark. And then on the edge, I've lined it with some ledger, the numbers. Then this one is a vintage piece of graph paper, and I've stapled to the top just a couple other pieces of note paper, so it kind of forms a mini notebook. This was an envelope, but it was so destroyed on the sides that there was really no saving it. And then it says something in, I'm assuming this is German, and it says it's key and spare suspension wire. I don't know. It was just super cool. So I stitched the parts of it that weren't totally destroyed together to make this pocket, but it's got such a great feel to it. And then I just put a couple pieces of ephemera in there. Some more of those labels. This is some more Tim Holtz. This is the, oh my gosh, what's the word? Linen tape. Fabric tape, linen tape, same difference, kind of. They just have the distinction on their packaging. This lovely lady is from the Time magazine. She's holding her new TV. She looks snazzy with her new TV there. This was in there as well. It's a Joker. And I just loved the little cowboy. And then this is another one of those little pieces of envelope that I've just stitched to make a pocket there. Some Tim Holtz pieces. This is from an article on wallpaper, and I just made a flip out of that. Imagine that wallpaper. Actually, this was in style then. It would have been out of vogue for a long time, but actually I wouldn't mind putting something like that on a wall in my house nowadays. As hard as wallpaper is to get off, I would totally do it. Then here's another little piece of ledger. These are some coffee stain papers. This is again another one of those pockets that I made out of the pages from the Eclectica kit. And a couple pieces of ephemera stuck in there. Again, great places to glue things, put pictures, you know, memories, quotes, lists, if you're a list maker. This says everybody sings the praises of, and it must have been an advertisement, but you can write here about, put a picture of your kid. Here is another one of those little notebooks. This is a really old 1868, and it's legit 1868 piece of ephemera that I got in some envelopes that I got a long time ago from Mexico. And so it's lovely. The handwriting is just fantastic. So I took a scan of that and then I put it in here. It was falling apart, so I had to glue it. There was nothing I could do besides glue it on. So, but it's super cool. This is a flip open tag with just a little scrap piece of faux leather, pleather on there, sewn on there. I did put some old stamps in a couple of these as well. Here's another one of those. I believe that this is the envelope that little thing, that little piece of ephemera that I was just showing you from Mexico. So this is the envelope, and it was falling apart, so I had to reinforce everything with some washi because it was falling apart, but I wanted to use it because the handwriting is just fantastic. Look at that. Oh, pardon me guys, my spring allergies too. They're a mess right now. We finally hit spring in Minnesota, and now everything is blooming. It's been super wet and everything is blooming, which of course is making my allergies go crazy. There's some old stamps. This is another one of those pocket pages. There's some ephemera in it. Some coffee dyed paper. This is just a piece that flips up. Here's a little mini pocket here. The little piece to write on. I just loved that 25, so I decided it was a thing. Hold on. I gotta take a sip of my water. All right, better. The truth came out of that Life magazine. This is a collaged page that has another piece of the, let's see, of envelope on here that had the stamps and canceled stamps. This is a vintage tag. I don't think I saw, oh, 75. And this was about some sort of bulk liquid. I'm going to guess this is like propane probably, because a lot of people around here have propane. Yeah, bulk gas. So I love that. Somebody's propane tank got filled up and this was the label, and my friend Dorothy saved it. She saved everything. Much to the chagrin of the children who have to go through it all, but much to the love of me. And then they gift it to me because they don't know what else to do with it, and I do fun things like this with it. Here's the back cover. So thank you, Stephanie and Jennifer, if you're watching this, so much. I love it. And look at, there's so many pieces of your mom in here. So then this is just some Tim Holtz paper. There's my maker's mark, and there's the back cover of that little record notebook. So again, this one's called Record. It's 76 pages, and it measures roughly, all these measures are roughly 7 by 9.5. And we've got the little key on there. All right, next is this one. These last two are a little bit bigger. They have more pages. A while ago, maybe a year ago, I did a video of making this stitched, crazy stitch fabric. And I used a chunk of it here, and then I put a small piece of stamped muslin that just says journal, and it's got a little book stamp on there. The book stamp came from Dorothy in a bin. So did these random keys. I think this one, well, it goes to like a freezer. It says to prevent children entrapment, keep key out of reach of children and away from freezer. So it's super cool. And then there's just this old one. It went to 1203 something. And this teeny tiny little guy. And then they gave me a, also in the bottom of one of the boxes, I found this super awesome, like rusted up patinaed ball chain. And I thought these are perfect to go on there. So that's the dangle on this one. Then I got this chart of brief forms, and I think this is shorthand, which I have never in my life understood shorthand. And then this was part of a box that used to have a giant heating pad, apparently. This was an electric heating pad, and it was a really thick box. Man, they used to really package things well. And so I cut a piece of that out and thought that makes kind of a fun cover to match this other one. This must have been the cover off of a notebook. And then this one has just got some little button tabs. The buttons came from a box from Dorothy, these little buttons, and a little tag, and then a whole bunch of little scrappy doos of fabric and tabs on here. And then I'm going to try really hard to stay in frame. Okay, so let's look through this one. This one is called Chart because of the chart on the cover. And it's 102 pages, and it measures 8 by 9.5. So again, all these little cards, there was a container of a ton of old coupons. So you will see some of those old coupons, and they were from the like 70s and 80s, and they had these little dividers in there dividing them: beverages, soaps and cleansers, and canned goods. So I put those in here. So that's the beginning of this little bit of goodness. Here's a postcard from Oguma, Minnesota. Population 219 in 1981. And I put an old stamp on there. This was a little piece of book page that she had ripped out, and it came in a box, so I taped it on here with some of that fabric tape. Here's a flap that I made out of a ripped off piece of envelope. It was literally, this piece was on there, so I folded it over and made a little flip out so you could make notes or post a picture there. This is from the genealogy book. This is an old envelope. Some of the things I didn't put anything in, so this envelope doesn't have anything in it. I figured it would be a good place for you to be able to store your own things. And then in here was a receipt for certified mail in 1975 and an old piece of ledger to put notes on. This is some scrap paper here. These are some of my top 10 papers that I love, and this little butterfly fabric up here is sewn on. This is I think this is the page of the front of like a music book. It says The War Doctor, April 1944. It's fragile on the edges. It says received April 8th, 1944, U.S. Naval Hospital, Charleston, South Carolina. So super cool. This is a really old piece, and on the inside there's like a little advert for some elixir to, I think, maybe get rid of your bad breath. The garlics want to hang out. So that's in here. These are some little tiny cards that came in there. It says hello, and it's not used. So this little girl is tucked into this little corner. This is an alarm clock instructions. I'm telling you, I get boxes of the most randomness, but look how fun it is all put together. These, Dorothy traveled by Greyhound all the time. So these are like the ticket packets or something. So I just backed them with paper. So it kind of forms a place for you to put some notes, and you could put pictures, or you could write notes in there too. So it's turned into a little pocket. And then this is some old paper about, it's mimeographed. You can tell from that signature purple print. And I think it's about either painting or how to take pictures, one or the other. This is The World's Most Popular. That's from that Time magazine. Here's a receipt from the Campus Center bookstore in 1974. So that's just stapled in the corner there. This is an old cookbook from, I believe, the 40s or 50s. So there's a recipe for lefse. If you've never had lefse, you should totally. It's delicious. Coffee bread, Swedish wreath, and Swedish limpa. Here's a calendar from 1983, and I sewed that with some ledger and made a little pocket. And in the pocket is a scrap of really old paper that's torn on the corner. And this, what came out of a catalog, and this was the thing that you ripped out and you folded it up and you put your check and the items that you wanted to order from the catalog. So it was in there like this. So then you have to put your stuff in there and fold it up and then glue it down and send it in, and then you can order things from the catalog. So those are what are in this big pocket here. And there's some buttons. These were earrings, and so I took the earring part off and turned them into little bulb pin tassel things. This is a pocket, and my mom works for the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and she had a bunch of envelopes that were ordered incorrectly, and so they have become fodder for my play because she knows what I love. So she gave me those, and then I've turned this into just a little notebook of some randomly folded pieces of paper and the envelope, and that all goes in this pocket here. And on the front are some hands from a clock. Those were some fodder that were in one of the boxes. So I stuck them on this pocket, and there they are. Cute. This was a card, just the front of a card. I have tons of like fronts of cards and postcards and things from Dorothy's, the boxes from Dorothy. Some graph paper. This is some wallpaper from my friend Emily. Hello, Emily. From Junk Journal Inspirations. So there's some cool wallpaper. And on the back, I glued some needlepoint embroidery instructions and some more pieces of ledger. It's a nice little place to journal. These are from some elementary primers from the 40s. So these are the rule breaker words that don't have the right sounds. Some staff paper, some really cool embroidered fabric. This, I believe, is Seven Gypsies paper. There's a couple pieces of it in here. And here I've folded it over, and then I've done another one of those notebooks, but this one is attached right into it. So there are pages here you could write on, glue things into, write doodle on, and then it folds back over. This was a page that came in a Dorothy box. It just has a couple of poems. Here is some Braille paper, which is cool. I put the word challenging that I had fussy cut out because, goodness sake, I can't imagine trying to learn Braille. That would be challenging to me. Here are a couple of those vintage food ads that are just stapled on, attached to this page, which is some more genealogy. This was in one of the boxes as well. This is a State of Minnesota Department of Conservation camp or cottage site lease. And this is old 1945. It has such a cool paper feel to it. So that's an original. And then here is a little note card that I got from her. This is a page of the bird book. New. That's not new. It's from the 1954 Life magazine. So is this. Oh, 58. I was saying it wrong. January 20th, 1958. 25 cents that Life magazine was. This is an old, from 1973, an envelope from the First State Bank of Northome, Minnesota, which no longer exists. But it's an old window envelope. And inside there is a big giant tag that made a pocket with another order form from something. Oh, I think the Life magazine. And then a couple more of those dividers. This is cereals and baked products and paper. So that's what's in there. And that goes back in that envelope. Here's a piece of Edith Holden page. This lady is from the front of a card. And this is some wallpaper. And let's see, where did I get that from? Alexandra in our swap. That's what I got from her. It's lovely wallpaper. So I've used a piece of it and this little lady. She was from a vintage card. This I love. This is a card that I got just the front of in a Dorothy box, and it's a standout one. It's a 3D one, so when you pull it down, it pops up off the page, right? Like that. So I put the word magic down here. Magic. And this is on, this, I don't remember. Oh, this is about the Shakers. It was some historical paper. It's on this really nice heavy cardstock. This is a vintage label. Some old stationery. This is, I believe this was like a sachet that you would put scented stuff in, but it had the most adorable little flower fairy scene on there. And in here I've just put a, come on fingers, work with me. I've just put an old piece of coffee stained paper. These are old paper clips that were in the bottom there. They are clearly old because they are made out of like the heavy dutyest steel. This is some old music paper, and in here is a guest check. And then some bus tags, Jefferson Lines, Greyhound, and special handling. And I just put them together into a layered tag. On the corner of that is this little, you know, kind of like a price tag type of thing. On the back side of this, there is, this is a really old envelope. And then this is clearly a calendar from August of 1978. And in that pocket is a little BR is for broom. Here's all the BR words. And then this must have been on a plant, 1974, Teleflora. And you would get this little tag attached to your plant, right? And I just put some paper in there, some ledger paper, so that you could write a note. So those are in this pocket. And then in the envelope here is a really old receipt from something. I'm not sure what, but it was in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And I lined that. It was really fragile. And so I lined it with some of the vintage ledger. And that goes in the pocket here. And then there's a big layaway tag that's been coffee stained in the pocket behind there. And on this side, it says There's Nothing Better. That's from that Old Life magazine. And then this was somebody's spelling list. This looks pretty old. And it's got some handwritten notes on the back about who knows what. Shopping lists, somebody's phone number, who knows. Pretty old though. So there you go. You can practice your spelling. This is some more of that Tim Holtz fabric tape. And this is a big giant piece of ledger. There were a few blank pages in there, and so I've folded them in thirds to put in there. Oops. Another pocket page and a little sign that says God bless our home. This is that 7 Gypsies. And then there was a little embroidered flower, so I stuck that down in the corner. Here's travel itinerary. Thank you for going on Greyhound. That looks like it's from 95. More of that braille paper. These were some like bank deposit slips or something to that end that I have punched some of those in here. Here's some more recipes from the 40s or 50s. Here's another envelope, an old envelope, and I haven't put anything in this one either. And this is one of the things I love. So this is an envelope. It clearly went through the mail in 1971. And you'll notice there's no address. It just says, Mr. Ralph Morris, the chairman of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, Little Fork, Minnesota. That's it. You didn't have to actually put an address. And this clearly got to him because it's been postmarked and delivered. I just love it. Back before you had to even know an address. Although you can kind of still get away with that now because our post lady knows us all and has our cell phone numbers here in my small town. Here's another corner of a ripped off postage piece. This one's from 72. And I just folded it over and made another one of those little crazy notebooks behind it. So a bunch of little pages right there. And that's attached to this page. and it's just got some fabric washi holding so that you don't get snagged on the staples. Some more vintage, some of that, it's not vintage, I don't know, it's probably a couple of decades old though, I guess. Ledger paper. This was the front or back of a card. I sewed one of those pieces on, and then this is the rest of that God Bless Our Home thing. And it was a calendar from 1978, and I've turned that piece into a little notebook. So there are several pieces of paper in here. So lots of places to journal in here in really unique and interesting ways. Like I said, maybe you see it more as a glue book or a doodle book or memories keeping, kind of whatever you want to do. This is from an old science book, a vintage science book that I have. This is some nice strong cardstock. This is from a first day envelope. This is from Emily as well. I have just a couple of them, and I have been hoarding them, but it seemed to fit so perfectly in here. And they come with these little cards in. So I've just turned it into an envelope, and then I have turned the card into a little tabbed journaling card in there. Then this one's got, I got a couple of just random little, I think they were like jewelry envelopes or something. And in here I've just got another little notebook full of papers. That's from Pokegama, Grand Rapids, Minnesota. The slogan of Grand Rapids, Minnesota is, "It's in Minnesota." If you know if you're an American and you know that the big Grand Rapids, if you say Grand Rapids, most people think of Michigan. You don't think of Minnesota unless you're from Minnesota. So their slogan is Grand Rapids, Minnesota. It's in Minnesota. Love it. This is a really old piece of ephemera. I had to glue it down. It was falling apart, but it was super cool. It says Victrola RCA Victor, some sort of something about a record player. Cycles 60, watts 15. I just loved it, so I put that on the bottom there. And then this is more of the lineage stuff. This is an old songbook, second grade primer songbook. And I have made a flip out here on modern staff paper. This is old Edith Holden, and I just put some scraps of papers on there for journaling. This is another piece of that old liner from a book. Just a big tag inside this Seven Gypsies paper. And then the back cover is, again, that heating pad. And I put a piece of bird page wild turkey gobbler, and I lined him with some page. And then, oh, I just pulled the back off. Clearly I need to cinch that one down a little more. And this is from an old clock that I think that's where the clock hands came from. Yeah, I'm going to leave this one open so I cinch it down some more. But this one's called Chart. It's 102 pages for that one. And then this last one is called Notes. No, it's not called Notes. I think it's called Scrappy, because I think I named it that before I put the notes on there. So yeah, it's called Scrappy in Etsy. And it has, I am not sure, this must have been like some sort of, I can imagine this being like a handmade for a necklace pendant kind of thing. It's a bunch of wire with some beads and this little, looks like it might be a, like a number from a bingo thing. I'm not really sure, but that's on another vintage ball chain, and that's just hooked on the bottom there. These pages are from a Tracy Fox kit, so I had a couple of random pieces of cardboard that were in that box, and I decided I would use them as bookboard. So I covered them in the Tracy Fox thing. I've got the word notes in some like Scrabble tile type of pieces. And like I said, this one's called Scrappy. It has 104 pages, and it's got more of the same type of stuff as that last one. This is some Tim Holtz paper on the back side of the cover. these are some more. Now you've got dairy, frozen food, and mixed and prepared. Mixes and prepared. Then another envelope, and it's got an 8-cent stamp, Eisenhower, and some fussy cuts from that Time magazine, and an envelope that, let's see, I did put just a piece of ephemera from the Tracy Fox Eclectica kit, and I've reinforced it with some ledger paper. This is from an old pin that was in there. This is gram stain for smears. So like if you're making slides in a chemistry class or something, that's describing how to do that. That's a very old typewritten piece of paper, original. This page has some vintage ledger, and then these are from that Life magazine. And on the back side is another one of the special handling transfer, and I backed it with ledger so you could write on there. This is the old encyclopedia. This is another one of those bank deposit things. Some ancestry. This is your maternal ancestry. Here's another pocket with another divider. This was an unwritten divider. A September page from the Edith Holden. And on the back, I used another corner of that heating pad packaging to make a long tuck spot. And then I've just got a scrap of scrapbooking page there. This was a really cool envelope. It's super thick, and it's from an elevator company in Fordville, North Dakota. And this is definitely old. It's vintage, and it's a cool envelope. I haven't put anything in there, but it'd be a great place to store something valuable to, because it's not going to get bent up. Old book page, from that school book. I've got a couple of, there's a pocket page here with just a big tag in there, and this is some sari silk ribbon yarn on top. This is about this is a vintage page about how to focus your camera. This is some more of that structure of an oil painting. So there you go. It's that mimeograph paper. This is an old label. It says item Wilson, date frozen. Apparently it was never frozen, but it's got little snowflakes on there. It must be a frozen food label or something. This is, I believe this is from Terry. This is maybe from T. Oh, maybe not. This might have been a Dorothy box. I have something similar from Terry too. Anyway, this is from the Oregon Symphony Orchestra. This might be Terry. And it's from '86, and this is like a share, like a, fundraising thing. Some more of that vintage bird book. Braille. Ancestor chart. A man had sand. Ham had sand. Jam had sand. Sadly, something was kicking sand and it got all over the man, the ham, and the jam. Here's some vintage stamps over here. Oh, Nat ran and ran. Sam ran and ran and ran. I can read, guys. I've gone beyond that, so we're good. This is the other half of that conservation land lease from, I think it was the 40s, wasn't it? I don't know if it says on this page. Anyway, it's cool paper. It's got a cool feel to it. This here was a card that I've turned into a little envelope. Here is, you can get free soup spoons from Campbell's, and another guest check. Let's see if I can see in. It's 1964. Sorry, probably expired. It's the back side of that lease. And then this is a little vintage envelope, and we've got a bunch of little pieces. That's from July 7th, 1963. Mrs. Weeder. She's backed in ledger. Mo the Milkman, backed with ledger. Walt Disney, Donald Duck, some sort of card game, ledger, and a Greyhound tag. Can you tell Dorothy liked to travel by Greyhound? So she definitely, we definitely have some Greyhound paraphernalia in here. That's all inside there. Here's another one of those Ogama, Minnesota postcards with a vintage stamp on it. This is 1984 February, and on the back there's some ledger. This is a flip up. One Colgate brushing helps give the surest protection all day long, from that magazine, and underneath it is a little stack of papers. It's a little notebook, and that's on back of some wallpaper from Emily. And this one's even better. It does, all it says is Mr. Delmer Anderson, Northam, Minnesota, 1970. That was how you could get it there. Inside here is a vintage flashcard, and this is from the Library Guild, and this is one of those things where you put it in and the machine reads it like calculator papers or computer papers. Cards. Oh, what's the word for it? Anyway, that's what's inside of this envelope. This is a coffee stained paper that folds out. Here's the other lady from the other part of that card. She's saying, hey guys. Another page from this is vintage stationery, and this is that vintage science book, and it flips open. It's an envelope. It flips open, and inside here I have the piece of a card I cut the writing off of. And so it's just the image from the card, and it goes back inside this envelope. I'm trying to be careful because some of these things are just so old that I've tried to preserve them the best I could, or reinforce them where they needed to be reinforced. Here in this pocket we've got a notebook with several pieces of notebook paper sewn, and then a super long tag inside this glassine envelope. This is more of that mimeograph. It's about painting. This is another piece of like biographical information. This was some old glassine vellum kind of paper that was in there, and another cute little postcard. This one's got a little raccoon, and this is the other half of that really thick paper about the Shakers, I guess. Some Tim Holtz, different washies and things, project paper. This, oh, more ledger. This one's got such a cool feel to it. This is a really old envelope that I have reinforced to turn it into a pocket here. Funny enough, this one's from 1997, but it had seen some things. So I reinforced it, but I loved it, and postage was due 11 cents. So that's got a big tag you can pull in and out of the top. This was some of that wallpaper article, and I turned it into a flip out. And this is the other half of a card that we saw in the other book. This is some old vintage music paper. More braille paper. Here is the other jewelry envelope and wallpaper from Alexandra. And in here we've just got another note card. This is a big flip out that's backed with ledger, so you can write on the flip out as well. Here's a pocket, and in here we've got staples and miscellaneous dividers, and then an image from, oh, it's a postcard. I was going to say, this one wasn't from the magazine. This is a postcard from the Ladies Auxiliary VFW in Minnesota. So there's that in this pocket. Some more old stamps that I've put on there. Then here we've got a post office receipt from 1975 from North Elm, where I live, and another little Greyhound tag. And here we've got some 1950s Peanuts and the Gang paper, like writing paper, and that's with some of the ledger from my mom. Another piece of vintage music primer, and that's on some staff paper. Creamed mushrooms, caviar and cream dip, herring salad. You gotta love them. Look at that spread. 1950s goodness. Miscellany, that's from the Time magazine. Another pocket, and this was another one of those messy notebooks that I made. It's got a bunch of pages and fold outs and places for you to write some notes, right? So then that all folds in, and it's a little messy notebook. And then we're right at the end here, guys. This is the last page of ledger, big fold out ledger here. There's plenty of places to write on that. And then more Tim Holtz on the back cover and my maker's mark. So this one is called Scrappy, and it has 104 pages. So I'm going to cinch that other one down a little bit. And then we've got these 4 notebooks that are in my shop right now. And you can certainly go take a look at them if you are interested. And I appreciate you joining me today. And like I said, now that I've gotten this out of my system and off of my desk, we will be moving on to the ocean journal. And I'll be working through some of that here online. I've got some really fun ideas on things that I want to do to make some cool papers to go in it, and work through some kits. Like I said, I've got a couple of new kits, and one of which we will be using for this specific project. And I hope you guys are having a great day, a great morning or afternoon, or maybe it's evening, or maybe it's the middle of the night and you can't sleep. I hope my droning on has given you some rest. Whatever time it is on whatever side of this planet of ours that you live on, I hope it's good for you. I hope that you're safe and well and able to do something crafty and be with the ones that you love. And until I see you guys next time, stay safe, take care, and God bless you. Bye, everybody.